Hey TPT sellers, did I get shadow banned by TPT? That's a question that comes up every now and then in TPT land, or sometimes people wonder, is TPT penalizing my products for whatever reason and showing me lower down in search? Is TPT out to get you? So in this episode, we're going to look at what the Algolia developer manual has to say about TPT search and whether it's technically possible for TPT to penalize a store. Here's what Wikipedia has to say about shadow banning. It's the practice of blocking or partially blocking a user or their content from some areas of an online community. And it's done in such a way that the ban is not readily apparent to the user. For example, shadow banned comments posted to a blog or a media website would be visible to the sender, but not to other users accessing the site. This might be where you comment on a post or a video, and if you're shadow banned, then the only person who can see your comments is you. But because you don't know that you're shadow banned, you keep on posting your comments as opposed to creating a new account. The Wikipedia article goes on to say that more recently, the term has come to apply to alternative measures, particularly visibility measures like delisting and downranking. And by partially concealing or making a user's contribution invisible, the hope may be that in the absence of reactions to their comments, the problematic or otherwise out of favor user will become bored or frustrated and leave the site, and that spammers and trolls will be discouraged to continue their unwanted behavior or create new accounts. If we apply these ideas about shadow banning to TPT land, shadow banning could be where your products are blocked or your products are partially blocked so you can see them, but other people can't see them in TPT search, or delisting your products or downranking your products so they don't appear as high as they should in TPT search based on TPT SEO alone. And this would be done without making it obvious to you so that you don't go ahead and create new accounts. My name is Mike Fuchigami. I'm the host of the SEOTpreneur YouTube community. This episode is for brand new users who are at the start of the game, either TPT eggs or TPT tadpoles. I'm not just talking about bad actors or spam stores who are watching this video to find out if they are shadow banned. I'm talking about new TPT sellers who maybe are creating content and they're discouraged because they're not getting the sales that they thought they would. And is it because TPT is out to get them, or is TPT limiting their success through the algorithm? This episode is also for TPT hamsters and TPT hawks, because I think it's important that we learn about the game. And the more we understand this game of TPT SEO, the better we can play the game. Can we control all variables in the game? Of course not. But the more you play the game and the more you figure out how it's played, the better you're able to respond to problems. And I know some of you like to report TPT spam stores, so it's always interesting to learn more about the mechanisms that TPT has in play to deal with spam stores. This is TPT SEO Secrets video episode number 16. It's my Sunday series where I look at TPT SEO from the perspective of the developer manual. We're going to talk about how TPT could block or delist a product using Algolia. We'll talk about partial blocking. We'll look at deranking, which will answer the question whether or not your products might get boosted or penalized, depending on who you are. And then finally, I'll summarize everything from a TPT SEO perspective. So let's talk about whether or not TPT is blocking your product. Here's how you know if TPT is blocking your product from showing up in TPT search. Because if you don't show up in search, people can't buy your stuff. So what you need to do is search the exact title of your product. And you can try this when you are logged into your TPT account, when you are not logged into your TPT account. And for funsies, you could try searching the exact title when you're not logged in and you're using a VPN and a brand new browser with no cookies. If you try this experiment and you are logged in, your result will probably be the top result. And if it doesn't show up, it could mean that your product is shadow banned, but it could also mean that your product is so new that it hasn't been indexed by the algorithm yet. And in other words, check again in an hour, check again in a day. So I'm going to check if a resource that I published this morning is shadow banned. I'm going to triple click the title to select it all. I'm going to go Control C to copy it. I'm going to go up into TPT search. I'm going to paste my title exactly the way it is, and I'm going to hit search. And there I am. I'm the first result for this long tail keyword, and there's only one result. Notice how the and symbol and the pipe symbol are not highlighted, and that's because punctuation is not stored in TPT search. It's only recording the words. By searching a very long specific phrase like your product title, and we only get one result, we learn that TPT is not suggesting resources that are related to this product. And this is important to know because a search engine can do something called fuzzy searching. Algolia tells us that what the search engine can do is if it gets no results, it starts removing words from the search term until it starts to get results. The store might do this because even though you're searching a very specific thing that they don't have exactly, they might show you other results that have some of the related words. So the example from the Algolia manual, it says query, so search up hiking backpacks, heavy clothing, no records match because there are too many words. If the engine was doing fuzzy matching, it would remove heavy clothing and find backpacks used for hiking. So what we learn from this is that TPT is using the default setting. By default, Algolia returns matches that contain all of a query's words. So if someone types in TPT search big hamster wheel, it will only show results that have big and hamster and wheel. Every result must contain all three words. And that confused me because here's the image from the Algolia YouTube video that explains their 8 tie-breaking rules. I thought rule number 3 was it sorted products based on how many words you matched in the search query. So if a teacher is looking up big hamster wheel and you have big hamster wheel in your product, then you get 3 points and you're grouped at the front with the other people who have 3 points. If you only have big and hamster, I thought you showed up in the second group because you have 2 of the words. And then if you have hamster, then you show up in the last group because you only have 1 word matching. So I guess I just sort of thought that it pulled in all the results if you had big or hamster or wheel. But what I learned today is that every result must contain all 3 words somewhere in the product. We know from episode 6, where I talk about the attribute rule, that TPT tells the search algorithm to look for the search terms in specific places. Probably the title is the most important, followed by the snippet, followed by maybe the product description, maybe comments, anywhere that a user can enter information. And so in episode 6, I thought, well, if you're in the title, then you get the most points. And so you'll show up closer to the front of TPT search if you have all the words in the title. But what I learned today is that your product won't show up at all if you don't have all of the rules somewhere. So this means if you can't put all of the words for your search term in the title because you don't have enough space with 80 characters, make sure that the words that couldn't fit in the title are in your snippet or your product description. The default setting that TPT is using is that all of the words that the teacher is searching up must be in your product somewhere. The other option that they could have used in Algolia is to allow Algolia to return matches that contain only one of the words. So if a teacher looks up big hamster wheel, instead of returning results that have big and hamster and wheel, the TPT search engine could have been set up to return results that have the word big or the word hamster or the word wheel. And we don't see that, which is probably a good thing because teachers aren't looking at results that aren't related. If I'm looking for a big hamster wheel and I get TPT products that are about big hamsters or big elephants, that really doesn't fit my need. And from a TPT seller perspective, if I search up a phrase like simple and compound predicates, pixel art activity, grammar worksheet 7, and it returns grammar worksheets or pixel art activities, then what will happen is we'll have a whole bunch of results for every keyword, and it would be impossible to find low competition keywords because every keyword has so many results. If you learned something new, can you please hit like? It really does encourage me to create more videos like this to help you with your TPT game. Let's look at partial blocking, because if your account was shadow banned, then everything would seem to be working fine for you, but other people wouldn't be able to see your products. The way to find that out is to search your exact title when you are not logged in. What I'm going to do is rather than log out, I'm going to go to a brand new browser. As you can see at the top here, I'm not logged in. I'm going to search my simple and compound predicates, pixel art activities, grammar worksheet 7. So the exact title, I'm not logged in. And when I search for it, I still get one result. And there's the exact title match for my resource. So This tells me that one, I'm not shadow banned, and two, there's no personalized search, because personalized search would mean that when I search something, I see different results than you based on my activity on the website. We see this happen with Google. If you search for something on Google and I search for something on Google, we'll get different results. They'll be in a different order, but we don't see that happening on TPT right now. Of course, things can change. Today is Sunday, October 6, 2024. Leave a comment if personalized search is now a thing. I'm going to search for my product using a VPN. So let's close Microsoft Edge. Just for fun, I'll go to Firefox. When I go to whatismyip.com, I can see that the internet thinks that I'm in New York City. So I'm going to go to teacherspayteachers.com. I'm going to copy the title of my resource. I'm going to search for it on TPT from New York. And I can see I still get one result and my resource shows up there. So I don't think I'm shadow banned. Now, if you're doing TPT SEO and someone tells you that you have to log out of your browser and go into incognito mode or use a VPN to check where you are for listing, that's outdated information. That might have been true during the time that TPT was doing their personalized search experiment. Personalized search happened sometime between August 2022 to April 2023. Right now, it's October 2024, so it's over a year ago. Rule number 2 in Algolia is geolocation. The closer you are to the person searching, the higher up you show up in search. That's one of the ranking factors I think TPT was experimenting with in their personalized search, but that hasn't been the case for over a year. So you don't need to go into incognito mode or use a VPN to look up your TPT product rank, because it's always the same result. So let's talk about deranking. The question is whether or not TPT can boost your product or penalize your product beyond where you should have shown up purely on TPT SEO. So can TPT boost or bury your product? And the answer is yes. This happens to the top 20 to 100 resources, probably. And this is a good thing. TPT does something called dynamic re-ranking. If you want to know how we know this, check out the video at the top. It goes into detail about what dynamic re-ranking is. But essentially, when you search something in TPT, if you are in the top 20 resources, TPT is looking to see which resources teachers are clicking on after they search on TPT. So if someone searches up a keyword phrase related to your product and they click on your product, if you get 20 or more clicks in the last 30 days, then your product will be boosted from where it should have been based purely on TPT SEO. Even better, if you have 2 people click on your product after they search for it and then do a conversion event, which could be buying the resource, but it's probably also other indicators like adding to wish list or maybe looking at the preview. Those are probably conversion signals. And if 2 teachers do that after they search for a specific phrase, then you can potentially get a boost in TPT ranking, because the algorithm recognizes that you are an attractive product to teachers searching up that specific phrase. And this is good because it means that resources that teachers are actually curious about will get boosted up to the top. And if you have a bad cover or it doesn't really look like it matches the search term, it doesn't match the intent of the teacher, what they're really looking for, then people won't click on your product and your product will start to drop in rank. A few people have asked me whether I think TPT is changing the algorithm. And the answer is, I think they're always testing out new algorithms in A/B testing. But I think something they might be playing with right now is maybe before TPT was using the default setting for dynamic re-ranking, which is the first 20 resources. But there's a setting that allows them to increase dynamic re-ranking to impact the first 100 resources, which means a resource on page 4, because there's 24 products per page. So that product in position 96 at the bottom of page 4 might be high enough that someone who's searching for a phrase and they're not finding exactly what they want, and then they see this product at the bottom of page 4 and it's exactly what they want and they buy it, and then someone else who's looking through the pages does that as well, then that product at position number 96 just became more attractive to the search algorithm. And maybe it gets boosted up to page 3. And then other people who are going past page 3 are finding this resource and buying it. And maybe it gets bumped up to page 2. So now it's even more visible because more people are going to page 2 if they don't find what they're looking for on page 1. And then your product is seen by the algorithm as more and more attractive. And so that could boost you up to page 1. And that's how I think we can get a product in position 1 with low reviews, outcompeting products that have lots of reviews. Because they are attractive, they meet the needs of teachers who are searching for that keyword. If you want to learn more about how a resource with practically no reviews can beat a resource with over 2,000 reviews, check out the video up there. But let's say some of us are wondering, well, maybe TPT is penalizing me specifically. So let's say people thought, you know what, Mike is talking a lot about TPT SEO. He's getting too close to the answer. Let's penalize some of his products so that it messes up his analysis, right? I don't believe that at all. But let's investigate whether or not TPT could do that. So can TPT boost or bury a product? And the answer is yes, with rules. Rules allows fine-tuning the results for search terms matching specific patterns. And there are 2 ways that TPT can set up the rules in their search engine. The first way is called query pre-processing, which just means TPT can implement a rule before the search engine goes through the search process to figure out if this keyword is relevant. So the rule can change what you are searching for. The second way is called results post-processing, which basically means after TPT does the search and comes up with the list of results, a rule can change the position of products. And it says here, rules may cause results, called hits, to be ranked differently for specific queries. So TPT can set up these rules, which are basically, if this happens, then do that. But they can even set up a TPT search rule that has no conditions, which means every search has that rule applied. And they could create a rule to either promote or hide specific results. So this is where the conspiracy theories can come in. Maybe you think TPT is out to get you and they're hiding your result. Is that technically possible? Yes, Algolia lets search engines promote or hide specific results. These are results identified by their object ID. So in our case, that would be the product ID. You can find the product ID for every TPT resource by going to the end of the URL. There's a long code here that after the question mark, and that's just a tracking code for their analytics. So I'm going to get rid of everything after the question mark. But this last number here, 12,305,055, that's the product ID. This is the 12,305,055th resource in TPT. So TPT could create a rule that says this specific product ID is going to be promoted to position number 1 in the search results, or it's going to be banned completely and removed from the search results. I don't think TPT would do shadow banning in this way because you have to identify the specific product numbers. The Algolia manual says that promoted objects have to be explicitly identified by their object ID, and that applies to when it removes products from the list. If I scroll down, it says hidden objects are removed from the hits. So that means when a teacher is searching up a term, if there's a rule that says, hey, completely remove this product ID, then it'll disappear as if it didn't exist in the search. But I don't think TPT is blocking resources product by product. I think there's a more efficient, and that's by blocking or promoting resources using filters. So the manual tells us that optional filters don't remove records from the results, but they can promote or demote matching records. You can fine-tune the behavior of optional filters with filter scores. So basically, this is like the tie-breaking buckets. If you match the filter, you're in the first bucket. If you kind of match the filter, you might be in the second bucket. If you don't match the filter, you're in the last bucket. And if we go to the Algolia developer manual, it gives us some examples of code. So for example, this code here boosts all books written by John Doe, and it literally just says author, and it says John Doe. So if in the search results, the author was John Doe, it would be in the +1 group. All of the other resources that didn't have John Doe would be in the 0 group. And it also gives an example of how you can demote all the books written by John Doe. It's as simple as adding a minus sign in front of the name. The manual goes on to say that in this case, basically, if you're not John Doe, you get +1. If you are John Doe, you get nothing. So that example of code tells me that, yeah, they could create a rule with an optional filter that penalize specific authors. And part of me wonders if maybe they are using optional filters like this to penalize resources that are free so that the paid resources show up at the top. This is just all speculation. No one knows exactly how the TPT search engine works except for the people who are in the search team at TPT. We're on the outside. We're looking at the cookbook. We're trying to guess the ingredients in this meal, but that's all we're doing. We're just making educated guesses. So if we look at the big picture to think about how TPT search applies different rules, at the very beginning, it's looking to see if your product fits the search criteria. And today I learned that you have to have all of the words in the search query somewhere in your product. It doesn't have to be in the title. It could be in the snippet. It could be in the description. And then after that, it applies the typo rule, geolocation. If it was turned on, it's not. Words, filters, proximity, attribute, exact. And if you haven't checked it out yet, check out the video up there. It's my masterclass for TPT SEO. Everything that I've learned in one masterclass. After TPT does this textual ranking to figure out if your product is related to the topic that the teacher is searching for, then it applies its business metrics to figure out how high your product should rank. And this is probably based on number of times wishlisted or number of sales or earnings. No one knows the exact formula, but there's probably a secret sauce custom ranking score, and that it sorts all the resources by that score. In other episodes, we've talked about how there's probably a decay penalty. If your resource hasn't been updated in the last week or the last month or the last year, you'll get sorted into different buckets. So if you've updated it this week, then you're in the first bucket. If you updated it this month, you're in the second bucket. If you updated it within the last year, you're in the third bucket. And this rule helps keep TPT with up-to-date, fresh content, or people who realize that's how TPT SEO works and they optimize older resources to give it a glow up, which is what TPT probably wants. I suspect that there's probably a store halo effect as well. So in this business relevance custom ranking section, they could have a tie-breaking bucket that basically looked at your store and said, have you had a resource that sold within the last day? You're in the first group. Have you sold a resource within the last week? You're in the second group. Have you sold a resource within this month? You're in this third group. So they could look at your whole store and not just the date your product was updated. Some of us have ideas that we should be publishing a resource once a week. And we think that maybe TPT is rewarding TPT sellers who are active. And that could be applied here. So do you have a resource that was published in the last day? You're in the first group. Do you have a resource that was published this week? You're in the second group. Do you have a resource that was published in this month? You're in the third group. So these are custom rankings that TPT could apply to any of your products. Bottom line is TPT probably comes up with this SEO score and it ranks all of the products, and that's what we see in TPT search. If personalization was enabled, the products would probably go up or down depending on your search habits. Today we talked about boosting and burying categories with rules. So this is where we could have an optional filter, and they could create a hidden category called shadow ban. And if it says, if shadow banned, then demote this product. I don't think that's what TPT is doing, but it could. And then after it's boosted or buried some categories based on these rules, it now takes the results and it applies dynamic re-ranking. So if TPT was doing shadow banning using optional filters, if you got onto page 4 and your product was awesome and it was something that clearly appealed to teachers searching for that search term, then you will go up in rank because of dynamic re-ranking, regardless of the rule to push you down, as long as you hit wherever the range of dynamic re-ranking is. And then after dynamic re-ranking, the final rules are applied. These might put a specific product to a specific rank in TPT search, or it might completely remove it from TPT search. And those rules are product specific. I personally don't think that TPT is doing shadow banning. I do think they are doing dynamic re-ranking. And here's why. Yes, TPT could shadow ban suspicious problem stores by either blocking resources from search results or partially blocking them or completely delisting them or downranking them so they don't show up as high. Yeah, TPT could do that. And other social media platforms do that because they don't want to make it obvious to the problem account. If they ban the account, then that user knows, oh, I got banned, I'll just create a new account. And so the shadow ban avoids those problem actors from creating new accounts. But TPT now charges $29 for you to create a basic seller account, which means if you tried creating a spam store and you get reported by the community, this looks suspicious, and then TPT looks at it and says, yep, this is suspicious, it's a spam store, rather than wasting time shadow banning you and they shut it down, then if you create another account, then you just paid another $30 to TPT. Inevitably, that problem actor will get reported by the community. So I think it's in TPT's better interest to completely ban problem stores instead of shadow banning them. But maybe there are other theories on why TPT might shadow ban an account instead of blocking it outright. And if you've heard of things in TPT land, I'd love to hear them. Please leave a comment, because I think active citizenship happens when we all try to make our communities a little bit better. But I also recognize that there are theories and then there are conspiracy theories. And I love it because it requires some critical thinking and some self-reflection to figure out, is this a conspiracy theory or is this actually legit? Any search engine could block or downrank specific products. And I guess the question is why? This is about mindset. Selling on TPT is hard. It takes a lot of work. And I'm starting to realize you really need to be devoted to the process of creating content, learning how to market that, learning how to create covers, learning about the importance of keyword research, learning where to put those terms, paying attention to feedback to teachers, looking at the data to optimize, like realize that, oh, I've got to fix my product covers or I've got to fix my preview, thinking about new product lines, ignoring shiny objects. Oh, I should try Pinterest ads. I should try Facebook ads. I should try Google ads. I should try TPT ads. I should try blogging. I should try posting on Facebook. There's so many ideas, things that you could try, but a lot of that is uninformed optimism, and it's easy to give up. So I think selling on TPT is really about self-awareness. You have to figure out, is this something that you want to do, and why do you want to do it? And then once you decide that, yeah, this is a goal that I want to go after, then you have to manage your responses and your ideas and your actions. When you hear people talk about shadow banning, or maybe TPT is downranking, or the search algorithm changed and TPT is out to get me, or TPT shouldn't have done that. If we can adopt the idea, and I have trouble doing this sometimes too, but the idea that every obstacle is an opportunity to learn something, then we start to separate our self-identity from our business identity. And my business becomes its own thing. And I become aware of my business, aware that it's separate from me, aware that just because I don't sell resources doesn't mean I'm a bad person or a bad teacher. There are lots of reasons why your resources might not be selling, and it has nothing to do with you. And if you figure out what those reasons are, then that business management piece comes in, where you make decisions about where to spend your time, how to improve your products. And then if we can keep on going at this game, then eventually we win. So if this idea about mindset in TPT land is new for you, check out the video up there. TPT is a joke. It's about that feeling that we've all had when we think, I tried, it didn't work, I give up. So check out that video. Another good video that I made early on are the 5 strategies in this TPT success video. I'll put the link up there. But there's more to success on TPT than figuring out TPT SEO or figuring out how to make good covers. I find strategy number 2 up there helps me on my path to be so good that you can't ignore me. All right, let's summarize today. The TPT SEO takeaway is this. Although TPT can technically shadow ban a store, they probably just completely ban problem accounts outright, as opposed to shadow banning, because it's in their best interest to just get rid of the products that are suspicious or don't meet their terms of service. Second idea, to think about some of the things we hear in TPT land and wonder if they're actually happening, or is this an opportunity for us to overcome some sort of obstacle? Something to keep in mind is that the search algorithm is constantly changing, or at least it should be constantly changing, because they're a big enough company that they have a division that does A/B testing. But whatever people think is happening in the algorithm, it has to be doable in Algolia, because Algolia is their search engine. So if you've ever heard something in TPT land about what the algorithm is doing, leave a comment. I'd love to look at that issue from the Algolia manual perspective. But I think it's important to recognize that TPT is creating systems as opposed to thinking about specific individuals. In their control room, they have a bunch of options. If they change this setting with typos, then it trickles down and it changes the results. Or if they change this setting with filters, then it trickles down and affects those results. No matter what happens, There will be people who win and people who lose search position because all of these changes are simply influencing rank. So if your product goes down, it means it must be replaced by something else. So I don't know that it's ever personal. I think it's just that they're changing system rules and that might be impacting your product and then it feels personal. The question is, how do we separate our sense of self-worth from our business? And that's something that I still struggle with because it's hard to stay motivated when your products aren't selling. And it's easier to get into TPT when your products are selling. Some of us will still feel that you've been penalized and you might be correct. Your resource might have been in position 1 and now it's at position 5. Or you might have been on the first page, but now you're on the second page and something clearly happened. And my question to you is, could your change in position be because of dynamic re-ranking? And dynamic re-ranking can change the first 20 resources on the first page, but the setting allows them to change up to the first 100 resources on the first 4 pages. That means you can use TPT SEO to get to the first 4 pages, but then dynamic re-ranking kicks in, and whether or not you get to page 1 depends on how attractive your product is. If you learned something new, please share this video in TPT land somewhere. You can agree, you can disagree. The point is to start conversations and to learn more about this TPT game that we're all playing. If you have any questions, leave them below, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.